Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. Are you burned out? Are you feeling like I don't know what to do? Or you're feeling like I'm working too much and I want more time? Or that you want more money? And my name is Charisse Walker, your host. And Bridget, without further ado, why don't you introduce yourself to us?
Well, thank you for that. My name is Bridget Hom. I am a wife, a mom of three sweet boys. I am a business owner. I'm a business and life coach, motivational speaker, and best-selling author of the book Stuck on Ready, because it takes too long to get ready as a mom, but also a business owner.
Yeah, very true. I was expecting you to talk more about what you've done and what you've acquired. So
Oh gosh.
we'll
Well,
get to that.
all right. So I'll tell a quick fun story for us moms out there. I love being a mom. First of all, let me say that, and I love that during the reinvention evolution of 2020, there there came about a separate economy for business growth, and that's really the virtual world. And so I entered into this space of the virtual business networking and pitched Bridge to Freedom coaching. And from there, I've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs and coaches to help them to scale their businesses, honor their roles and goals, and monetize their influence. And that's when the best selling book came. But one point that's really important to hone in on is I have a hard stop at 3 p.m. every day so I could pick my kids up from the school bus. My boys are still very young, and I decided that I was going to serve others with solutions during the hours of 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. And I've kept that schedule for the past 5 years. I was able to get to a six-figure plus income, and I have people reaching out with phenomenal, more and better opportunities every day based on, well, just empowering the person in front of me, no matter what.
That is fantastic. So a few things that I want to unpack. The first one is you set yourself boundaries. And I think that when you do that, people have a lot more respect for you and they don't tend to ramble on. They don't tend to do things because, hey, I got to get going and this is important to me. And they respect it and they help you sometimes keep your boundaries because, hey, I'm done. Or aren't you supposed to be at? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. So setting boundaries is a good thing.
Well, and two things, all of the people that I work with, I always tell them, you want to honor your roles and goals.
Mhm.
And when you're an entrepreneur, or when you work for yourself, it's easy to have shiny object syndrome. I know even when I was getting started, when someone said, "Hey, I can work with you, Bridget, but it's not till 7 p.m." And I made a lot of mistakes along the way. There are a couple of people I sacrificed my boundaries for, but it wasn't in alignment. So, we always want to focus on alignment with our roles and goals.
Mhm.
The second thing to focus on is your success criteria. As an entrepreneur and business owner and a mom, you want to know what your success criteria looks like so you can recognize an opportunity that's worth your time and energy and resources, right? Have you ever thought about
Oh,
business that way?
yeah. Hmm.
Yes.
Hmm.
So,
Absolutely.
so I always weigh, this is my personal success criteria. Number one, it has to honor my roles and goals. It has to be between 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. It has to be something that also monetizes my influence and produces at least a 300% ROI. And lastly, it has to be honoring my zone of genius. So those weigh every opportunity against that success criteria, and you are on your way to monetizing your influence and serving more people with your business.
I love that. When you were talking about that, an example came to me once that I had this friend that I met, long story, but
I love that you have friends.
well, my dad would call them acquaintances. But anyway, so I redid her kitchen cabinets and her countertops, right? And this is a long, long time ago. But she wanted me to sell her house, but she was going to do like this flat rate. So she was going to sell it for, we'll just say 350. I'm like, why? You can sell it for 399. She's like, oh, really? Now, had I said, hey, I know I can sell it for more, and if not, I will charge as much as this flat rate person. I could have got the deal, but I didn't. Instead, I'm like, hey, this is how much you should. So then she ups her and still goes with this other person. So she made 50 grand off a suggestion for me. And then she's like, well, I want to use you, but are you willing to take 1%? I'm like, oh, it's better to have one than nothing. So I had 5 other deals going on at the same time as hers. She took more time than all 5 of those people combined. It's interesting because she'll take, but she's not willing to give. And so when you talk about the 300 ROI, like time is so finite. And if you're going to take time away from other people who value you, and I've actually started saying this, and I get the clients anyway, they're like, well, I'm only going to do it for 2%. Okay, that's fine, but you're going to have to find somebody else. What? It's like, well, here's my value. I know that I can do this. I can go find other clients that are willing to pay me that. So why should I take time away for someone who doesn't value that? And so
Absolutely.
I think that I love that you talked about that, that the 300x or ROI.
10x, right? Greg Cardone. Well,
Yeah.
alignment's the highest form of energy. What most business owners don't realize until later on,
Mhm.
after you get a couple of years into business, is that everything is a problem-solving experience.
Yeah.
That's the energy that you bring to a scenario. You're focusing on helping someone solve their problems faster. And then it's up for the negotiation. Are we in alignment or are we not? There's no such thing as acceptance or rejection in the world of business or relationships. There's only alignment.
True.
So I talked about, you don't need to stay in low deservability. Like I talk about the law of deservability in my book, Stuck on Ready, because we need to be able to hone in and find what activities, what thought processes are in low deservability, and how do we get to the high deservability where we're always monetizing our influence. We're always forming these relationships that are helping us to grow our influence in our area, our zone of genius. And so really focusing in on that alignment piece and that deservability piece is huge.
I think that your gut tells you a lot. And if you listen to your gut, then I think that it's going to help steer you where you need to. Because anytime you take on a client, have you had this where you take on a client, you're like, I don't know about this. And then you take them on anyway, and you're like, I should have listened to my gut, right?
Yeah, I've actually let someone go. And because we had a conversation about alignment,
Mhm.
and she said, I'm actually going this different direction. She was a loan originator, actually.
Mhm.
I'm going a different direction. And I said, I totally feel that. And I see that. Another client said, how long do you expect me to work with you? And I said, that's a very great question. I said, well, I think you and I will both know when it's the right time to walk away. And if I feel it, you probably feel it. So I only want to work together as long as my solution is helping you solve your problems.
Mhm. That's great. Now you do life coaching or you have, but you're transitioning because anytime in business, sometimes you start in one direction and then it ends up taking you to a different one. So can you expand on that?
Absolutely. So I still do some life coaching because personal development is the foundation of professional success.
Mhm.
But really, the vehicle that I found that most people want is how can I monetize my influence more? How can
Mhm.
I get to more and better? Because when you're profitable, then you're able to create a quality life for your family. You're able to do all those things you want to do for the travel soccer, which I'm in right now, which is so intense, and all of these other things, the better schools, etc. And so my heart really transformed into making sure that businesses can be successful. They can scale. They have the scalability factor. They know how to create an innovative culture. And so I started transitioning just based on the people that were coming my way and who I was serving. And business and people are synonymous. So if you're afraid to enter into the business world like I did, I was a bougie stay-at-home mom for a decade. Okay. And then before that, I was in ministry. I was a legal news reporter for the 5 boroughs of New York City. I've had some interesting experiences. But when I ventured into the business world, it was intimidating.
Mhm.
And it was great to I formed a collaboration with a gentleman, and he and I started a placement agency, first of all. So it's story time now. We formed a placement agency. I met him salsa dancing. And he said, we're going to launch a business, Bridget. And I said, phenomenal. I don't know what this means. So we launched the placement agency for assisted living and memory care, people who needed to find the right community.
Mhm.
And so I started life coaching the families involved, et cetera. And so I've quickly realized that if you can get into the problem aware and solution seeking mode, then you're in business. If you just adopt that mindset of problem aware and solution seeking, you can literally do anything you want to focus on. You could develop new zones of genius for yourself if you are always figuring out what are these people's problem? How can I help them solve them faster? You're in business.
So true. I literally just spent 4 days talking about that at this conference that I'm at. That's all they talk about is you have to find the problem. And if you find a solution, it's a multi-million-dollar business. It really can be. Okay, hashtag I don't have any income claims or whatever. But it's so true because it doesn't matter the industry. And I know people that the things that they've done and how much money they've made off it, I'm like, really? That's a thing? Okay. And yet it's because they figured out somebody needs it. So Russell Brunson, it was ClickFunnels that I was at, and he gets up, he does this impromptu, which I was incredibly blown away and impressed because they all of us like, here's our pitch, here's our offer, here's what we do. And he was randomly chosen. He didn't get to choose. His staff chose for him because that's how much they wanted to show how easy this would be. He spent probably 15 minutes talking to her. She was a difficult person, definitely had some special needs, so she wasn't understanding. She very literal, and he's trying to do stuff. And so it took just a tad bit longer. But then from there, he used this framework. And from the framework, she trains dogs for anxiety and autism and different things. And so she wants to sell a course. And literally in 30 minutes, well, actually it was about an hour, he was able to meet her for the first time, figure out what it was, create this offer, and then he himself pitched it like this webinar. And I'm like, okay, I don't even want a dog because I already have one, but I'm ready to buy. And it's because of the way that he did it. And so I think that that's the part that we have to remember in business is if you don't know what the problem is, you don't know what the pain is, it's either away from pain or towards pleasure. And if you don't know those two things, then you're not going to go anywhere.
100%. That was so well said. And it is also about the framework.
Right.
If you can create a framework and communicate it effectively. And communication is twofold: active listening,
right,
and also making sure that that person does feel very heard and you're communicating your brandable language effectively, right? There's certain things that we all say, and there's certain brands that we remember. So you have to make sure your brand is memorable.
Right. That's very true. Okay, so I'm going to ask one more question regarding business, then I want to switch gears for a second. So you've obviously coached with a lot of people, life coaching and business coaching. What is one mistake? And I talk a lot about they have to know their why and they have to know their audience. So those two are off the table, okay? Because everyone has heard that. So what is one piece of advice that you would give somebody who is either floundering with their business, like they're stagnant, they can't hit, they just keep hitting this roof no matter what it is, or they're just starting out?
Perfect. Do organic market research.
Okay.
Ask more questions. Most of the time, people are trying to create frameworks. They're trying to create programs with nobody's real input. They're trying to give too many statements to people about what they think they're creating and what they're creating. Nobody really cares until they know how much you care. And you can't really know what you're caring about unless you've listened to somebody. So do some organic market research, ask more questions, go on platforms like Alignable, LinkedIn, Facebook, and just ask more questions, and not why questions. Don't ask why. Why is an intrinsic growth question. It helps us to figure ourselves out. I want you to ask empowered questions that start with what, when, how, do. What is your problem? How would you like to solve it? Or what have you tried? When is your timeline? When ideally would you like to get started? All these, you want to ask empowered questions, and then you will start to figure out your framework. You'll start to figure out what people want, and then those answers will come to you.
That is so powerful because I know so many people who spent hours upon hours upon hours creating a course that nobody's interested in because of the first two things. They don't know who their audience is and they don't know what their pain is. And so if you, well, again, getting back to Russell, 4 years ago when I got, or 4.5 years, he pitched this whole thing. I would say 1,000 people out of 3,000 bought the course. The course wasn't even, like, it wasn't even designed yet. He hadn't created it yet because he wanted to see who was interested. And then there's a problem, but he did. He was building it as he went. He said, okay, we're going to start in a month. And then they went to work building this course, asking questions of how people wanted it. And who's the guy that he was like a BYU professor. He was like that. He was a con man. Catch Me If You Can. It's about him, that movie. Anyway,
Yes,
They said, how did you teach and how did you do this? He goes, I was just one chapter ahead.
Honestly, that's it. But the other component that we didn't address, the reason 1,000 out of 3,000 people bought from him is because people never buy your product, message, or service first.
Right.
The first thing someone buys from you is your authority, your credibility, your relatability, your energy, and your belief.
That's
So
true.
that's what everyone bought from him first. Now, when you're building your brand, you need to be building those 5 components first, because sales is a huge component and you have to know what you're selling everyone. That's what you sell someone first. And I always say, you're your number one client. You buy everything you sell yourself.
Yep. And if you aren't living it, then nobody else is going to buy it because it's not authentic. It's like you're oozing out this smelly, don't touch me type thing.
Yes. I have so many ideas. You just put me back to when my children were in diapers.
Okay, so let's switch gears to momhood. Before we were talking before we press record, you said something that I really loved that goes with business and family, and it was about culture. So if you remember, can you relate to that or say it?
Absolutely. So when you're starting a business, you always have to think about, how is it going to affect you? How is it going to affect your client base? But how is it going to affect the culture at large? And most of us, when we start our business, we're very short-sighted. We just think, how can we make $1 or $10 or 100 or 100,000? We always need to be thinking larger, because that's where you're going to become a brand authority. Now, switching gears to momhood, we talked about goals. Let's talk about roles. You are creating a culture in your home. I am creating a culture in my home. And so what do I want that culture to look like? And I have a specific strategy that I use with my clients, that I use for myself. It's called the 4 selves. And so every single day I do one thing for each one of my 4 selves: my emotional self, spiritual self, intellectual self, and physical self. Now it also becomes the 4 selves for children, 4 selves for client interaction, 4 selves for relationships. And if you just focus on your 4 selves, you will create not only a culture that's intelligent, critical thinking, always focused on personal development, but also you'll start to see a ripple effect within your own family. For example, talking about family culture, we have scripture verses on the table. We also have a dinner table question game to ask weird questions like, what would you do on a deserted island? Who would you bring? My 14-year-old at the time was really smart. He said, I'd bring a helicopter and a helicopter pilot. I said, that was the most brilliant thing I've ever heard. Most people are thinking, how will I survive? He's thinking, how can I actually have an exit plan? So I also have newspapers around and National Geographics, because I'm constantly enlarging their viewpoint of the world so that they will always be critical thinking. And we ask a lot of empowered questions in our house, and then try to listen well, even though that's hard sometimes.
That is so good. That's really good. Thank you for that. Okay, so you're sitting on a park bench and you're just enjoying the day. It's the blue, sunny skies. And this 9-month pregnant woman comes and sits next to you, and you get talking to her and you find out that this is her first child. And now you have been able to, like, you immediately start from the first time that your baby is born in diapers and now where they are today. And you just think about everything. And what is one piece of unsolicited advice that you would give her, not necessarily the baby stage, but just as a mother in general?
You have more power than you realize to make decisions in your child's favor. I would encourage the mom, and I actually did that a lot. I used to have a network of moms in my phones before I started a business. I'm like, soccer mom, 14, 15, park mom. So what I would say is always do your research on anything you're going to put in your child's body. Number 1. Number 2, realize that you're raising not only a child, not only a husband or a wife, but you're raising a citizen. Number 2, you're raising, and number 3, treat your child as, and the way you raise your child, think about how they're going to raise their children. And probably number 4, screen time is not necessary for any type of growth. Entertainment is not a necessity for children's growth. So, because, you know, the truth is, I heard something earlier today, said, let me see if I can phrase this right. Rich people invest in education, poor people invest in stuff, ambitious people invest in time, and then lazy people invest in distractions. And you know, building a culture based on how can I be entertained is never going to be a culture that thrives.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd probably say all of that on a park bench with a mom, and she would probably be like, hey, maybe I'll save your number. Or maybe I will never call you again. Probably I sat on this bench with you.
So I actually, for my church, at the time, like this is last year, I was involved. So on Sundays and then once a week, we'd get together, and they were like between the ages of 16 to 18, right? Now, they're getting ready to graduate high school, or they're junior in high school. And I'm just like, I felt like every time I talked with him, it was like this lecture. And I realized I had to stop, because I'm like, I just want you to, and don't do, and be careful of. And they're like, and they're these perfect angels. They're like, do nothing wrong, right? They have the perfect families. Okay, if you read my book, Flipping the Iceberg, we know that that's not true. But on the outside, it appears this way. And so I realized, because they're like, she's weird. And they never said this, but I kind of felt like they're like, okay, stay away. She's the plague. And it's because I wanted them to just be so prepared and know. And then I had to step back and go, wait a second. I just have to love them and give ideas and be an example, and set the culture, because like I'm still in the group, but it's hard, like as a new mom, because you have seen it all. You know what's going on, just like as a child, and you as the parent. I have adult kids now, and it is so hard to sit on the sideline and watch them, especially when they're like, yeah, don't do that. Don't go down that path. Don't. And they do. And you want to lecture, you want to grab them, you want to bring them back. And they're like, no, mom, I need to make this journey on my own. And you're like, oh.
The two things that I would say right now in our culture that we're struggling with is the lack of EQ and emotional intelligence, because when children are developing that muscle to critically think, we are giving them a distraction to hone in on instead. And so one of the strategies that I actually use for my children and my clients alike is called the brain dump, where you set a 2-minute timer and let them write "Dear God" or "Dear Universe" and empty their headspace out on paper. So they start the practice of processing their thoughts before they go into external monologues. It's an emotional regulation exercise. It helps you to determine how you're going to show up for the rest of the day. It helps to put your feelings in line underneath okay, let me be intentional with my thoughts, words, actions, and emotions. So the brain dump is a great exercise to suggest. And I actually did a speaking engagement for 150 teenagers last month. And one of them saw me. We were getting off the boat. We have a boat membership. That's what you do in South Florida, right? You live near the ocean, get a boat membership. And one of the teenagers recognized me. She was having dinner with her family, and she said, what you said stuck out to me so much. And she goes, I thank you for speaking so directly to us. Like, don't treat us like teens, treat us like adults. And she was so grateful, because it was always calling them into more and better. Like, are you growing spiritually? Are you growing intellectually? Are you growing emotionally? Are you challenging yourself physically? Because we live in a culture of comfort.
Yeah.
It's a constant undercurrent. So always calling people into more and better, and encouraging them to do the same, because we're doing it as well.
This vision just keeps coming back. And when I say vision, like a picture, yesterday I was at church, and after it was over, I was out in the hall waiting for one of my daughters to come out. And this lady, she was a little heavier, but she just had a baby, right? And so this baby, he's just hugging on her, and he's tired, and you can tell. And so she's trying to hold him to put him to sleep, but he doesn't want to. And so she gets out her phone, and she, like, no joke, he's laying on her chest and her phone's right here. And she's just like letting him watch this. Like, this is a baby that's probably 5 or 6 months old, not very old at all. And I just looked at that, and oh, that's how you're going to put this child to sleep. Like, get up, walk around, hold him. And it's interesting, and no judgment on her. But my point is that we as a society, as parents, it's easy to get lazy. It's easy to just give the distraction because I'm busy and because I'm doing this.
Oh yeah, 100%. And I've fallen victim to it too. Okay.
Yeah.
this is an ongoing battle,
Right.
but we can call each other to higher standards, higher levels of consciousness. That's what we're called to be for one another. And moms are the greatest networkers on the planet. You know, I'll literally go to Facebook groups, Jupiter Mamas. When I need to find something, I know my network of moms will help me to find whatever it is I need. And so I think it's so important to stand together and be able to have a dialogue or ask questions in a place without hiring judgment on our mental team.
Yeah, that's great. Well, you have been a delight. And so if our listeners wanted to get a hold of you because they need either life coaching or business coaching, how would they find you?
Sure. BridgetHom.me is my calendar link that goes directly to me, not a salesperson. You can meet with me directly and we can have a 30-minute Zoom conversation. So BridgetHom.me. And if you forget that, just find me on LinkedIn and personally message me. I look forward to chatting with you.
Well, thank you for being on, Bridget.
Yeah, thank you so much, Charisse.
And moms and entrepreneurs, I hope that you took some golden nuggets from this, specifically knowing how to have focus. And there are so many different, I call them bits, that Bridget said that, I mean, there's so many. We'll definitely have them highlighted in the notes below, but just go out and make it a great day and know that you can be successful and that you deserve it. So have a great day. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Charisse Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Charisse Walker.